Shasta, a short story by Michelle Rubatino. The Present Spring, 2007. How did I get here? Olivia said out loud as she watched the last moving truck leave the driveway. After all, she was alone now, and no one could hear her. It felt like a bad dream, just a piece of someone else's life playing in her thoughts. Looking around the ranch that once had joy and happiness, now empty and void of anything or anyone. Having become a widow at 42, Olivia found it difficult to believe that all that remained of her marriage to Zachary was now boxed up to be shipped out. Even the man that shared her bed was boxed up and buried. The reward for their dedicated years together was supposed to be growing old in tandem. It was just 6 months earlier they had celebrated their 17th wedding anniversary. They had gathered all that boxed up stuff together. There was no space to erect a shrine in the memory of the love they shared. At the new place she would call home, the feeling of loss overwhelmed her. She tried to hold her strong stature, but it was beginning to crumble with each memory that came into view. Here they had raised their only daughter together. They had survived his sudden heart attack. It was the cancer where they lost the battle, and she had to bury him. It was a struggle to accept this moment. Growing old together on this farmland, purchased just 8 years earlier, was the plan. Losing him required major downsizing. Olivia wished to wake up to find him there. She kept hoping he was just playing hide and seek. Looking around only provided evidence that he is gone. It wasn't long ago he gazed into her eyes over a candlelit dinner for two. "You are very pretty," Zachary said seductively. With a slight grin, she whispered in her sweet tone, "Thank you." Olivia's sultry voice always satisfied his need for comfort. After a long day at work, a few moments passed, then staring at her intently, he declared, "You are beautiful." Her dark, rich brown eyes gazed back at him in delight, and she gave him a big, flashy white grin. She knew he always wanted to see that smile. The drink they were sharing was a special mango drink, fruity and delicious. He handed her the drink, and she took a sip from the straw. A taste explosion on her tongue, causing her to moan with delight. As she opened her eyes, she found him staring intently into her eyes and said with deep desire, "You are gorgeous." Blinking on purpose, she snapped herself back to now. It was time to stop this reminiscing and get back to the order of things. While digging in her purse for the keys to lock up the house, she found an item that was not meaningless junk. She grabbed it as if it would save her life, looking at it with intent to find some meaning in what was now her life. The little glass vial filled with clear liquid and gold nuggets was held shut with an old-fashioned cork plug. It was so small, a treasure easy to keep over time. After 32 years, it was still in great condition. Olivia had gazed at it during every hard-to-accept moment experienced in her life, a reminder of how precious life is. On the outside, the label read, "Knott's Berry Farm." Flooding her mind were visions of sweet jams and jellies in the store where they had purchased the golden vial. It felt like yesterday. Walking the path she had walked every day for the past 8 years, Pondering this would be the last time, she approached the barn. After entering the barn, Olivia fell to her knees on a remaining pile of hay and began to sob like a little girl. In tough times, her mind always went back to the family vacation, to California, when she was 10 years old, a wonderful memory that always helped her stay focused on what mattered in life: living. It was more than a little vial of gold in her hands. The gold represented being with the ones you love. But her love was gone with Zachary, and for a few minutes she traveled back in time. Flashback to the family vacation, summer 1975. Mother said, "Eureka! We have struck gold!" because it was half wolf. The family gazed at the Siberian Husky puppy in the pet store window. She said the wolf in it made it gold. As the children showed their enthusiasm to get the puppy, Mother told them a story about their great-uncle Gunnar. He lived in Nome, Alaska, during the Klondike Gold Rush. A little girl just like Olivia got very sick. It was diphtheria. They needed the medicine within 10 days, or the whole town would perish. Uncle Gunnar and others had to form a dog relay plan to transport the serum they needed from Anchorage, many miles away. When it was Uncle Gunnar's turn to transport the serum, he was caught in a blinding blizzard. In the whiteout condition, he could not see his own hands, let alone the trail back to Nome. It was his lead dog, Balto, that was half wolf, that led him back home to safety. A statue was erected of Balto on the North Path in New York's Central Park, with a plaque that says, "Dedicated to the indomitable spirit of the sled dogs that relayed antitoxin 600 miles over rough ice, across treacherous waters, through Arctic blizzards, from Nenana to the relief of stricken Nome in the winter of 1925. Endurance, fidelity, intelligence." Mother complained. Why would anyone breed dogs from the Siberian tundra in the sunny heat of California? This puppy has to be related to Uncle Gunnar's dog. The pet store clerk just informed me that all Siberian Huskies registered in the United States can be traced back to Seppala's dog kennel in Nome.
"What's a tundra?"
asked curious 10-year-old Olivia. Olivia's older brother responded sarcastically, "The North Pole, silly, where Santa is from." Mother looked once more at the dog, hot and panting. That was all it took for her to buy the dog. She then announced, "We are leaving in a few days to go back home. It will be a long car trip back to Seattle. Each of you will have to help take care of the puppy." The 4 children were happy to have a new family pet, each one competing to hold the cute little ball of fur. En route back home, crossing Mount Shasta between California and Oregon, they decided to name the new pet Shasta. Olivia attempted to hold the puppy a few hours into their long journey home. She squeezed the puppy a little too tight, and its unclipped nails gouged into her delicate skin. Olivia began to cry.
"I'm bleeding!"
As her mother repaired her broken skin with bandages, Olivia declared,
"I don't like the dog. I don't see any gold."
It was clear by the look on her face that she meant it. Flashback to winter 1976. That following winter was colder than normal for the family. The news was reporting, "Cold front coming down from Alaska." It was such a bitter cold, people couldn't go to work, which left Mother and Father trying to find some fun things for their 4 kids to do. Father got an idea to play hockey on the ice, so Mother unpacked the skates from the attic. Each of the children grabbed their size and tried them on. It was a little tight getting through the laces, and the leather was stiff from being so cold. After some grunting and tugging, they all succeeded in getting their skates on. They headed out to the ice. Each child grabbed a hockey stick and skated out to the lit playing field Father had set up earlier in the day. The boys were naturals, quickly able to maneuver in their skates on the ice. It was then Olivia began to object.
Where's my hockey stick?
Being 10 years old, she was unaware of the skill and physical ability needed to participate in the great hockey game on the ice. Watching all the excited older siblings and neighbor kids playing and laughing without her was more than she could bear. She complained,
Why do I always have to play alone?
Mother wiped the tears, wrapped her scarf snugly, and with a smile said, "You can still skate. Take Shasta with you and keep her away from the players."
Why do I always have to babysit the dog?
Olivia protested, still sniffling, but with Shasta at her side. In a grumpy voice she said,
Come on, Shasta. Let's go play on this stupid ice.
As she stepped out onto the frozen lake, she quickly realized it was a good idea to have the dog. Olivia was still new at ice skating. Shasta stayed close and was there to grab and use as a crutch. Inch by tiny inch, they made it halfway around the frozen lake. Shasta suddenly stopped and gave a whimper sound.
What's wrong, Shasta?
Olivia inquired. Suddenly she saw how far they were from the players. There was very little light to see anything at all. She found herself and the dog completely on the other side, alone in the darkness. And now even the dog was scared. Fear began to run through Olivia. Thoughts of falling in. She gasped.
What if the ice breaks?
She looked at Shasta in terror, and fear of the unknown struck her to the bone. Feeling herself all alone, she searched her thoughts as to what to do next. Then she remembered the story of Uncle Gunnar and his dog stuck in the blizzard.
But how did he get the dog to pull him?
She thought for a minute and decided to tie her scarf on the dog in hopes Shasta would pull her back to safety. Olivia secured her scarf loosely to Shasta's thick furry neck and then said,
Okay, Shasta, let's go.
The dog at first took a few steps in one way, then she backed up and did a turn to the right. Shasta began pulling Olivia slowly toward what must have been the way they came. After a few feet, Shasta picked up speed. In the blink of an eye, Olivia's frown turned to a huge grin, with the wind in her face and the sound of blades cutting through the ice beneath her tiny feet. The feeling of flight filled her as she flew across the dark, cold ice. It was a ride of wonder and delight. After turning the bend and seeing the lights around the hockey players, she could see their moving figures in the distance. As they got closer, Shasta began to pick up speed and run. It was the sweetest ride, being pulled so swiftly and so smoothly to the very spot they began. It was in that moment Olivia understood her mother's comment about calling the dog Gold. Back to the present. Still clinging to the vial of gold, alone in the stillness of the barn, she raised it up to the heavens and declared, I am still alive, so I will live. Slowly, she composed herself and realized life is not about how things are arranged in the world around us, but rather how we arrange them in our mind. We have hard things to accept in this life, but life is worth living. There is gold to be found in the indomitable will of staying alive. even when we go into the unknown future all alone, to start again. For the last time, she walked out of the barn and did not look back as she got in her car and drove to her new home. The end. Thank you for listening.
This video was made and brought to you by Michelle Radio.